Welcome to Rice TVX and the latest episode of the Rice Crypto Show. Thank you for tuning in for today's Bitcoin and cryptocurrency rewind. Last week in crypto today. I am joined by my brother from another mother, Mr. Satoshi Sean. I'm going to have links down below for his YouTube channel as well as everything that we talk about on today's show.
BitSwap is the hottest new way to trade tokens. Crawling all the top decentralized exchanges, BitSwap will get you the very best price and value for your trades. BitSwap is changing the game. Try it now at bitswapdex.com.
Always got to shout out the sponsors of Rice TVX who help it make it possible for me to bring this content to all of you fine people, all you beautiful people. So I would encourage you to make sure you're checking out the links down below in the video description for BitSwap Dex, for Monarch, and for Pre-Search. And real quick, if this is your first time ever watching any of my videos, I do encourage you to check out and explore my channel. Make sure you're subscribed, and also make sure you subscribe to my backup channel, Rice TVX2, the sequel. And in case anything ever happens to my channels on YouTube, make sure you're following me on Odyssey, where I have backups of my full catalog and post up extra content as well. If you'd like to support the channel directly, check out my Patreon channel. I post up exclusive content and you get early access to videos. I'm going to have links down below for everything I just mentioned, but if you go over to ricecrypto.crypto, I have links to all my social media sites, and you can sign up for my mailing list so that you never miss an update or new Rice TVX content. And if you haven't already taken advantage of my partnership with Money Metals Exchange, you can get a free half ounce of silver. All you need to do is be a first-time buyer at moneymetals.com, purchase a minimum of $100, and be sure you use the promo code RICE, R-I-C-E. You get that free half ounce of silver, and it's an additional way to support the channel as well. I'm going to have links down below for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything we talk about on today's show. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in for today, the Rice Crypto Show, the first official crypto rewind, and I am joined by my brother from another mother, Mr. Satoshi Sean, who is no stranger to the show. But if this is your first time watching any of my content and first time ever checking out any of his stuff, I'm going to have links down below for his YouTube channel and for all the articles that we're going to be talking about on today's rewind. Now, before we get into it, I just want to say you might see a lot of crypto channels that are putting out different news, whether it's daily or weekly, and I'm trying to bring a different perspective. A lot of people know that I got involved in blockchain and cryptocurrency from the cypherpunk mentality, changing the world, getting rid of that third-party middleman intermediary, getting away from the central banks, fiat currencies, and such, because there is a difference between money and currency. And as me and Sean were talking about before we started, the best way to really understand Bitcoin is to understand money versus currency, and it helps you get a better explanation for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So Sean, thanks for joining me again on today's show. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Always good to hang out with you, bud.
Yeah, we're going to do this regularly. I think we're going to figure out a day. We may keep it on Saturdays, but and what I'd like to do from these episodes on is figure out a way, to get where we could do it on both channels, have your intros and all that good stuff to where we can incorporate it, and then bring in one or two different people in the crypto and blockchain space to add a little bit of flair and a little bit of different perspective on some of these things that we'll talk about. So
it's funny because we've been talking about that. I got into crypto completely on the other side. I was more part of the third party legacy system, and I thought I understood money. I mean, I was part of that, which is really weird. But you don't, one of the best quotes I've heard is, like you said, to understand money or to understand Bitcoin, you need to understand money. And most people think, like, you had said that the US dollar that's money, that currency is money, but it's not. When you really look at it, anything is money, whatever people have value or put value in, that'll hold value.
Right.
Like we were talking about John Oliver, and he did the famous news, like one of the first real news articles on what cryptocurrency was. And he said it's basically Beanie Babies. Which that I think everyone thinks that quote is like either it's prolific or it's hilarious, but I think it really is much more prolific because it shows the difference between something of real value and something of hyped value. And a lot of times in cryptocurrency, especially after that aired, it was during the ICO boom, I really did think, well, wait a minute, that's kind of true, because at the time, an ICO came out, we have absolutely nothing. We have an idea, and we're going to do stuff, and give us lots of money, and it worked. They got hundreds of millions of dollars, but they had nothing. There was no real value. It's good that the space has changed, I think, but even now, I mean, we're both approached by like projects that want us to review them and go over them. And a lot of them I see now are just, it's like a wish list from Harry Potter. Like, we're going to do this and that, and we're going to cure cancer and AIDS and all this with blockchain. But it's just words.
It's speculative, yeah. It's talk.
It's just words, and it's obvious now, having gone through the ICO boom, this doesn't fly anymore. You know what I mean? You can't just do that.
Well, that'll start to come to fruition. And for people who want to get a better understanding about the money versus currency, I did put a video out. I have just not in the video description. I think it's in a playlist called After School. But check out Mike Maloney, his channel. I think it's Gold and Silver, Mike Maloney, Gold and Silver, and he has a 10-part series now. It's called The Secrets of Money, Hidden Secrets of Money. It's been a minute since but it's and I think I even have it on my channel in the playlist section. But in one of the first, second, or third episode, he's kind of talking about the difference between money and currency. And then once you have that better understanding of money, it really gives you the understanding of Bitcoin, not necessarily the blockchain technology itself, but the point behind Bitcoin. And so some of the articles that I picked today were, kind of economic based, because I feel like, we're talking about mass adoption. We're talking about changing the world with these currencies. So these decentralized cryptocurrencies. So these are some of the things I like to focus on. Obviously it'll be a mixture of things, and I'm going to invite others to suggest articles. But when Bitcoin was created, it was Halloween 2008, the white paper came out. Satoshi Nakamoto released the Bitcoin white paper, and that was the precursor, came out as at the tail end of the 2008 crash, which I really feel like we technically have not recovered from. It was just quantitative easing to basically get us through, put everything on life support, zombie banking system. Now we're dealing with all of that mess. And now it's time for something like Bitcoin to shine. And so one of the things that I found interesting, because we've been hearing a lot of talk about CBDCs, the central bank digital currencies, digital government coins, gov coins, Fed coin, digital Chinese yuan, which would be programmable money. But now we're hearing about what I would call poorer nations now talking about adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. Like as an example, this isn't from last week, but El Salvador and Paraguay. This week we've got Panama in the mix now. So it's Latin America countries eyes Bitcoin adoption after El Salvador passes Bitcoin law. So it's kind of interesting that you're seeing the wealthier nations looking at launching their gov coins, their CBDCs, but you're seeing these poorer nations just adopting a decentralized currency, cryptocurrency in this case, as legal tender. What are your thoughts on this, homie?
Well, I've had thoughts on this for probably 4 or 5 years, and I've said this was going to happen. I've always said that this is going to happen either I thought it was Africa. My bet was on Africa 60% or South America 40%, but it was going to be one of the two because it's where it was most needed. Richard Hart always puts things in perspective really well. You can love him or hate him, but especially in the old days of before Hex, when he was just, a figure. And he always said, why would somebody go through this? Why would somebody go with crypto instead of Visa or MasterCard? Why would someone use this instead of this? When this exists, something else has to be cheaper, better, or faster, or else people won't use it. Because, there's idealists like us. We would go through all the crap of setting up a lightning node or whatever, and then and see, you can use this, you can do it. It's just like, just like Visa, just like MasterCard. But you have to go through all the work of doing that. And 99.9% of most people in the world won't do that. In most Western countries, because they don't have a need for it. They don't see a need for it. And there's a lot of places like the Middle East and the MENA region where it is necessary, but a lot of people don't think it's necessary. So I really thought Latin America, South America or Africa was going to be the place where it was going to happen. And it did start to happen in Africa, but there's so much.
What is it? Nigeria, that they tried banning it, and then basically the people just weren't having it, and it was a lot of the youth.
Yeah, there's so many countries with like an iron fist dictator. It's still such a bloody and war-torn place. That's the only thing holding adoption back. The only thing, like, it's no big deal. But in South America, it's not as bad. Also, there's a lot more. We have a lot more, involvement in those areas to try to, keep stability and keep things going in America's interest. So that's why I think it's coming. But I knew it was always coming. I think it's a wildfire now. You can't blow out a fire. So it's gonna just spread quick. Paraguay.
One of the interesting things, though, man, is the IMF and such, the World Bank, when it comes to this, because I believe that like El Salvador is supposed to be getting some assistance, and I don't know that they're going to get the assistance. I don't know if there's pressure being put on these nations, but these nations are realizing what's going on, because since we got out the gold standard and everything's completely backed by nothing, when you deal with fiat money, in that case, it always goes back to its intrinsic value, which is zero. And, one of the funny things that I like to tell people that it shows inflation, but it also shows how worthless the dollar is. There are like early editions of the Monopoly game that the play Monopoly money is actually worth more than real money. It's crazy to think that somebody would pay thousands of dollars, real dollars, to buy a game that includes fake money. or in that sense, using fake money to buy fake money. So it's the rest of the world has realized this. Prior to Trump, there was this push for de-dollarization. Your BRICS nation banks, Brazil, Russia, India, China, I think Venezuela, there were some Middle Eastern countries, all these were involved. That's when they started launching the Chinese yuan. The petro yuan, which was the first time it was something was competing against the petro dollar. Crazy. And now that Trump's out of office, all that's kind of back on. And now the inflation, now the mainstream news is talking about inflation.
Can you imagine if people didn't say that word? Because it's not real. There's no such thing as inflation.
Devaluing of money.
Exactly.
If
people called it deflation, if it was devalue, if people said, "Oh man, devaluing is high, the dollar's devaluation," so high.
Well, maybe we should start replacing the word inflation with devaluing, because it's essentially what it is.
I think that's something like conspiracy theorist. It was created by the CIA, the term. I think inflation is probably the same thing. It makes it sound like bread costs more. Bread doesn't cost more. And if you look at real money, any kind of real money, if you look at silver, for a 1 ounce of silver, I could get, 15 loaves of bread 10 years ago, and today I could get 12 loaves of bread for 15, for an ounce of silver. So money, bread doesn't cost more.
No. It's the purchasing power.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. When people say the dollar is losing purchasing power. Oh, well, it's a fancy way of saying the dollar is losing value. And
I forget who it was. It may have been the guy you interviewed, but he talked about Ford, and not that long ago, we're talking, the 1920s, 30s. If you worked at Ford, you got paid in gold, and they got paid like 20 to 30 ounces.
But you got the option.
Right. But if you looked at where paid today, if they were to be paid in gold, they're being paid almost the same or less. So when it comes to gold, there's not that much of a change. They work there. If you went to work at Ford and you worked a full, 40-hour week, you got like 30 ounces of silver a year, or 22 or something. And if you go to Ford and you work 40 hours a week, today you would get like about the same or a little less.
Right. Well, back in the day too, like a suit, like in 1930, you could buy a nice suit for an ounce of gold, equivalent to $20. Mm-hmm. And then today you can buy a nice suit for $1,900, which is the price of an ounce of gold, but you cannot buy a nice suit with $20.
Right. So that's the whole thing. If you would have taken the option to get paid in, US paper money, you would have, you're making, 10 times, 20 times more working at Ford today. But in reality, you're not,
Right. No, I agree. Now, speaking of inflation, I mean, the Fed just came out a couple days ago talking about.
You need to put that comment on the screen there.
Which one?
From Miss Space Cake. That's I say that all the time, dude. Precious metals.
This one?
Lead, silver, and gold. Yeah.
Well, I don't normally hear lead put in the mix. In this particular instance, I think copper is going to be, from watching and talking to people like George Gammon.
Lead, silver, and gold. You're going to
need bullets, lead.
Yeah.
I get it, you Texan. Yeah.
We could talk about that news this week.
Is it crypto related?
Well, it is.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. In a minute, pull up the article. We'll talk about it after this one. Because while we're into it, I want to lead into this inflation thing. Definitely pull the article up, and then you could do a screen share in a minute. So the Federal Reserve, basically, it talked about not raising any sort of interest rates until like 2023, and because of such, people like Paul Tudor Jones, who is an extremely wealthy trader, very, very well known, who's put in I think 1% of his wealth into Bitcoin, which is several billions of dollars, or several millions of dollars, not billions, several millions, like hundreds of millions of dollars. But he's talking about buying more. And from the key points from the article from CNBC, Paul Tudor Jones said he would go all in on inflation trades as the Federal Reserve is nonchalant this week regarding rising consumer prices. I'd probably buy commodities, buy crypto, buy gold, the billionaire hedge fund manager said. If they course correct, then you're going to have to get a taper tantrum, because everything's going to need to be tapered off. And the Fed's 2-day policy meeting is scheduled to conclude on Wednesday. So this is earlier this week. And since then, he's basically has come out saying that he's going to be purchasing a lot more of things like Bitcoin, commodity-based items, dealing with gold and silver, physical gold and silver and such. So it's really interesting to see how the big players, how they're acting in regards to when it comes to inflation and what the Federal Reserve and central banking is currently doing, because I mean that's one of the reasons why I would say publicly you got MicroStrategy, Tesla, and other companies adding things like Bitcoin to their balance sheets, because they're doing this not because they necessarily love the technology per se. They're doing this to hedge against the death of the dollar, and the dollar being the world reserve currency. It's just a mess that we're in, man. And then a dollar right now is, because of what the Fed talked about, is rallying, which is what hit a little bit of the crypto markets, hit gold and silver. The Dixie index strengthened. It's also 2.5% above the lowest level this year. And it talks about the Fed's decision. The biggest driver for the dollar index this week has been the Fed's interest rate decision. The bank decided to leave interest rates unchanged at between 0 to 0.25%, where they have been the past few months. The bank also decided to continue with its $120 billion asset purchase program, which has pushed its total assets to almost $8 trillion. So between the inflation stuff and what like people like Paul Tudor Jones is doing and the Federal Reserve, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I think he's really calling out that it's just like we were talking about the term inflation versus devaluation. They've been doing the same song and dance, for 100+ years. And that's, a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that paper money is an absolute experiment. It has never been that way for humankind. This was an experiment of trust in a government, in a centralized party. And it was very, very, it was fought against by everyone, by regular people.
Right.
I made this point in my last video with, GSX, with Apollo, the gold secured currency. They are putting out their coin is basically what money was supposed to be.
So Apollo's now gold back. Is the Apollo that McAfee was promoting back in the day?
No. This is different. They actually own, I think, like 4 gold mines in South Africa that are producing.
So it's not the same coin though?
No, they have different coins. This is like it's called a growth coin, because they tried calling it a stable coin. And I was on a show with people. I'm like, dude, it's not a stable coin.
I'm saying, is it the same company, Apollo, or is it just another?
Apollo FinTech. Yeah, Apollo FinTech.
So same company, but just different token. Okay.
It's a different product. But anyway, it's the GSX. It's backed by gold. So if gold goes down, it could go down. That's the one thing that nobody wants to admit, but it's true. They're like, gold will never go. I was like, gold could go down. It'll go down. But mostly gold will go up and has gone up. So it's like it's kind of like a growth fund that's backed by gold. That's how I look at it. Okay. But the thing is that you can take that at any time, your GSX, and you can convert it and get real gold, that they would send you gold to cash in your GSX, which that was the promise of the U.S. government for when they first issued the dollar. It was called a promissory note, that you could go to the Treasury and you could get real gold for your paper money. And that is the only reason why people accepted it. And it was still not really widely accepted or happily accepted, because it was putting trust in that centralized agency. And of course, the government, flipped it and said, no, now it's not backed by gold. You can't. Now it's a debt note instead of a promissory note. It's the complete opposite of what it was supposed to be. So, but they've been doing this song and dance, like I said, for this whole time. And they're doing the same thing. Just bury your head in the sand and just don't look at it, and people who have a lot of money and a lot of interest in it now, they're taking notice and they're calling it out. They're like, hey, you can't just keep printing the money. You can't just keep doing this and think it's not going to eventually fall apart. Every time they print money, they're pumping up that balloon and it's going to pop. People said everything's a bubble. This is a bubble. And when this pops, it's going to screw up the world, because the dollar is, and
it's going to screw up everything. I mean, unless, then it could get to a point where it's like, you've got people who are looking at cryptocurrencies as ways to profit, make more fiat money. But I don't want to sell my cryptocurrencies necessarily. I'd rather live in a world where things are priced in Satoshis.
Yeah.
So that I could
I've
use
always
it.
said that the Bitcoin will be worth the most when it's worth zero. Bitcoin will go to zero, and when it's zero, that's when the dollar is not worth anything, because you won't.
Well, no, at that when you say zero, it'll be zero US dollar.
Yeah.
But see, that's when the perception of value changes, and we get out of the mindset of
Right. Yeah.
of judging it against the US dollar.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. That whenever it goes to zero, because the dollar is worthless, and you can't even compare it to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin,
but like I said, when it goes to zero, it won't even have the impact that you're saying, because people would already have lost faith at that point.
right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Bitcoin will be worth the most.
Right. It'll still have value, even though you're saying it's worth zero.
Yeah, I think Bitcoin will be valued against gold, or even everything else will be valued against Bitcoin.
Since we're talking about it, man, just I can play it in the background. There's that, I don't know if you've seen it, but when I went to Miami, there was a dumpster full of
yeah, that was
Venezuelan money.
Yeah, I like that video, dude. That's cool.
It is intense, man. To see, like, there's each one of these is like a $50 note.
Yeah.
And the notes themselves, hold on one second, my bad. I want to take it back. And I'm going to grab a bill, because I ended up grabbing like a few of them, even though they're worthless. I just still wanted to grab some, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a dumpster full of Venezuelan money. Each one is a $50 bill, and you know, back at some point, their $50 was worth something. But because of hyperinflation, which is a strong form of inflation, that just quick devaluation of money, those $50 notes are worth, it's probably worth less now, but it was like 0.5 zeros, at a 6 or a 4 of a penny.
And when we use words like that, it doesn't have any impact, dude, to be completely honest.
Well, when you have a dumpster full of money, that
when you really need to look at it in forms of people to get,
because that's like hundreds of thousands of Venezuelan notes.
Yeah, and you keep saying Venezuelan, and I keep thinking of Family Guy when they were getting some ransom into some South American country, and they had the money, and the guys were like, "Man, our money's really gay. It's all pink and purple," and it's people especially in the United States. We don't look even at euros, which are more valuable than dollars. We don't look at it as like real money. It looks like play money. That was real money. If you look at those as US dollars, you know,
some of these are beautiful. Some of these are really beautiful. I mean,
there was one guy, he was a crypto YouTuber, like back in the last boom.
The Banco Centro de Venezuela.
He was married. He's married to a Venezuelan woman, right? And he was talking about his father-in-law, who had worked all of his life and saved up all of this money. He had hundreds of thousands of dollars. No, it was like 120,000 that he had saved for retirement.
Was it this guy?
No, this was his father-in-law. He had worked. He saved the money up, and it was real money. That was like in the U.S. he had like $100,000 saved up for retirement, and within 30 days it dropped to like 40 grand, and then within another 30 days it dropped to like 5.
Yeah, so that would be like going to the store today and buying a loaf of bread for $2.50, going back the next day and it being $4, then going back the next day and it being like 8 or 9, and then it escalates at that point from that 8 or 9 to like maybe even $50.
It's like you go to buy lumber and it's like $1.50, and then you go to buy lumber and it's like $4 the next week. And then you go to buy lumber and it's like $9 the next week. That's happening now.
Well, now lumber prices starting to come down a little bit, but just like anything, like, something's going to go up, but it's not going to come back down to where it was. It's going to steadily be rising. And I mean, we're seeing that that's why I'm saying, when you're seeing the mainstream news talking about inflation, which is stuff that because I've learned from a lot of great people, and I've been able to interview a lot of these people like Max Kaiser, Lynette Zhang, George Gammon, um, G. Edward Griffin. This was projected to happen. We knew it was inevitable. And we've been trying to warn people. But when the mainstream news is actually talking about it, then it's a problem.
You got a good question over there. Why don't you put a Sergeant Griswold on there?
Sergeant Griswold. That's a cool name. Reminds me of National Lampoons.
Yeah. I think it's because in reality, and when people look at what's coming, like, you know what? I'll make it even more personal. I buy silver all the time from where we have our affiliates at. Now, and they moved those to, I was about to bring that up, man. They did go to silver certificates for a while. But I think the reason why people buy silver and look at silver more than gold is because in a real economy, gold is still not a very viable source of purchasing power. It's hard to go spend $10 worth of gold, but it's not that hard to spend $10 worth of silver. You can get grams of silver, and they're like dollars, literally.
And this is not a debt note versus the Federal Reserve debt notes.
So, but you can still. I think gold will be used, like if you want to buy a car or a house or something.
Well, the valuation of gold per silver is off. So, like, I personally am investing in more silver because once we start seeing things correct where they should be and not being dominated by paper contracts,
but still,
then the ratio of trading.
I think copper is also going to come around.
That's why I mentioned copper earlier.
Yeah, and I've been buying a ton of copper coins from
Money Metals.
Yeah, so and they're one of the only places.
What is your promo code?
Sean.
Just Sean.
Yeah.
Not SHAWN.
No, I don't spell it wrong. Like that sheep from that movie. But I think that's why people choose silver more. Because if you look at what's going to be a more easy to spend, because my son's like, Dad, why you keep buying me all the silver? It's weird. I was like, you can be able to pay your rent with that, in a couple of years. You can be able to use that, much more than gold.
Yeah, and silver is obviously versus gold. Silver is being utilized in such a strong industrial sense. I mean, the supply of silver will start to. I mean, we're seeing issues where it's not like we're out of silver, but dealers having it available to sell isn't the easiest, and sometimes there's delays on orders if they can even ultimately fulfill them.
They brought up Bill Hicks. That's cool. Yeah. Also, when it comes to centralization,
well, she's in the UK, so she's and she seems to be a very enlightened lady.
When it comes to trusting in third parties, even with silver or gold, a lot of people were calling out their customers.
Did you know that copper pennies are worth 3 cents?
Yeah, I knew they were worth a lot more. That's why the penny is even now when it's zinc, it's worth more than 1 cent to make. That's why there's a huge push to get rid of it. But what was I saying? Oh yeah. No, what was I saying?
I don't know.
Thanks, man.
It's been an interesting day. We were talking about copper.
Yeah, we were talking about copper. Copper's cool, I guess. Yeah.
Copper is copper. Copper coins, copper pennies being worth 3 cents.
I don't know. Bill Hicks threw me. Yeah, I remember what I was saying.
It didn't help.
No, I don't know. It was probably really informative.
It could have been.
It could have been, yeah. But the world will never know.
Did you find that news piece?
I found very interesting stuff about it. I would also like to hit on.
Okay.
You want me to do it now?
You can.
Okay. Okay.
You know how to do it, right? Do it.
And I had to do it, but I'm gonna pull up it's gonna look weird if I don't move something around. Okay.
Well, get rid of the porn and stuff, please.
I don't even know what that is. All right.
Okay.
What was
I going to do?
Here we go. First here.
Do something.
If you look here, you gotta add it.
Yeah, I would have to add it, wouldn't I?
Yeah. If you look here, this is me Googling.
Oh, I should hold on, man. You should redo that and pre-search it.
Here, if I look up
I had to throw out something for one of my sponsors, and pre-search is a much better way for you to be searching.
Well, that's why I'm about to make that point for you, dude. If you look for Google Texas news, there's nothing on anything that I'm going to go over, which is the biggest news in the world, in my opinion.
If you live in Texas, it's the biggest news in the world.
No,
but if you don't live in Texas,
it's biggest news for you.
Okay.
I know what the world is, Chris. Okay.
God bless Texas.
It's the biggest news in the world.
I don't see your horn, boy.
It's the biggest news in the world, and it's
where are your horns.
If you Google Texas news, none of it's
Texas
here.
knows.
Texas knows news.
Texas knows news. Okay.
If you Google Texas news, none of it is here. Nothing comes up. Why? We all know why. But it'll bring you up stuff about what Abbott's done against Democrats, because that feels more of the narrative. The Democrats walked out of the Texas legislature, and because they didn't want they wanted to stop a vote. They wouldn't be there to vote.
Right. Do you know what that's called?
What?
There's a term for that. It's called send die. And if enough representatives walk out, then it kills the whole entire thing. It doesn't have quorum. Well, if you don't have correct quorum, then everything is. That's one of the problems that happened at Civil War. Is the Southern states walked out of Congress, and that really technically ended our government because we were.
Yeah, so we got a lot of. Okay,
so that's kind of like what's happening in that sense. Stay
focused, or I'm going to forget again.
Okay.
So anyway, they walked out. The Democrats walked out. So the governor said, "Okay, if you won't do your job, you're not going to get paid," and he was going to stop them from getting paid, which he really isn't able to do that unless he stops the whole funding of the government, which he is looking at doing. So the only place that I can find a lot of the information is on Twitter. This is a callback like to Trump.
Okay, can we try something? Can you go back and try pulling up presearch.com and then go to DuckDuckGo and search for the same terms, and let's just see what the difference of pull up information is, and see if Google is purposely suppressing this information.
I use DuckDuckGo.
Okay, well, so through pre-search you can actually use a lot of different.
Okay.
You just can't earn so it's presearch.com.
Yes, this is Brave New Coin.
Okay.
Pre-search building is sustainable. Oh, I'm looking at news. That's why. Presearch.org.
Yeah, try org or that'll take you to their website. You don't want to go to their website. You want to go to
research.
Right, which will take you to .org.
Okay.
Or .com. Your computer is really slow.
Well, I know. Okay, so let's put.
So now, real quick, do you see the bottom underneath the search bar? It allows you to search on those different options. So you can see it has YouTube, it has Google, it's got Etherscan, it's got different things. It's got DuckDuckGo there, so you could actually look at different ones to get a variety to see if they're. Now, if you were signed in, if you had an account and signed in, you could earn PRE, their token for doing searching. And I have a referral link down below in my video description if people want to sign up for it. So you're using pre-search as pre, right? Go back one more time.
Okay. I even searched Texas 10th.
Okay, so it is on pre-search. Yes. So search the same thing that you had on Google.
I just did.
I know, but I was making sure you were using pre-search's search method, not it wasn't set on another one. I just want to make sure. Anything different? If not, then go and try DuckDuckGo. You can backspace it. You can backspace it and do it, and then find DuckDuckGo in a search method. But is it giving you more?
Live Q&A. See, none of this came up under Google. Expanding access under the 10th Amendment. So let me try DuckDuckGo.
You can just, you don't have, yeah. So say you don't have to, you can just go back because it gives you DuckDuckGo on the search engine option. All you have to do is select it on the bottom of the search bar.
I'm glad I didn't do that. I allowed you to talk about that.
We'll go back twice. Now you have to take it back twice because I want you to do it this way.
Or I could just click this, couldn't I?
Right you could. We're doing a.
Well, look at that. That's pretty.
Yeah. No. So now on the bottom, you see the DuckDuckGo logo.
So I just put it right there. DuckDuckGo.
Is that DuckDuckGo?
Well, it's duck. So yeah, I think.
We'll highlight it. Make sure. Okay.
DuckDuckGo.
Yeah. So then now try to search it and see what comes up with that. This will show people too, like how Google, how much information Google controls.
Well, also DuckDuckGo used to tell you, like it would say, so many things were blocked.
So what we got here?
Zombies, semen, and big rocks inside a Texas deer breeding industry.
Dude, that's cool.
That wouldn't come up on Google.
Zombies and semen and big rocks. Welcome to Texas.
So okay. For sure. So
I see horns on that boy.
10 Amendment, and nothing came up on.
Look at you. You're a big speller, but you should, if you want to be technical, you should have capitalized that T. So would that information come up on what comes up when you put that search term in Google, though?
This does not. They blocked. That's something. His tweet should have been the first thing. It didn't. This came up on pre-search. These others didn't. None of these did. None of these came up at all. This is like.
But you had to put that in specifically. Did you put that exact term right there?
Yeah, I did.
Texas News 10th Amendment on Google?
Yes, I was searching all that, and I couldn't find
nothing came up on Google.
Nothing at all. Only the stuff about anything that's against Democrats came up.
What would you account for that fuckery?
Well, it's obvious. I mean, everybody knows there's been whistleblowers and everything else has come out that that Google specifically, blocks certain things and promotes. Even if they don't block it, they promote certain stuff. So that the stuff you're looking for might be there.
That's what I'm saying. What foe? Why foe? Why foe they do that?
Well, because they hold a party line and a government line. But
can you define that in street terms, sir? I don't understand your babble.
They only promote what they believe in, which is
that like propaganda?
Power and control and propaganda, yeah.
Is that like 1984 kind of stuff?
I remember back in 1984 when I was a mere 30 years old, and that was not that bad. But yeah, so much of 1984 is now true.
Or even
it's not funny.
They Live is another one that people should watch to get a little insight on what we're talking about, because we came here to kick ass and chew some bubble gum.
And we're all out of bubble gum. So, but this, if you go to once again, Abbott, I just signed a resolution asserting Texas sovereignty under the 10th Amendment over all powers not granted to the federal government by the U.S. Constitution. The resolution will officially notify the president and Congress to cease acts of encroaching upon power of states.
Okay, so basically what Texas is saying is that it is no longer going to be underneath the jurisdictional control of the federal government, because essentially when our country was formed, each state was its own nation, and we're a confederation of nations, and each state, each nation was supposed to have the power to govern itself, not the federal government to mandate what was supposed to be required because of funding. And Texas has been one of the states that's not received funding. They didn't accept federal money. So like there was no reason for the federal government to come in and supersede and say, no, you have to listen to what we say. Because in that case, if Texas wanted to legalize marijuana, the federal government would say, well, it's federally illegal. So any of those companies in Texas that are selling marijuana cannot use the banking system because the banking system is federally regulated.
Which we're going to hit. I'll hit on that, which will blow your mind.
I'd like to see how
you just opened some fucking shit up for me.
Does Texas have marijuana legal?
You just changed the game, brother.
Has Texas legalized marijuana yet?
No, because
that would be a game changer if Texas
Yes.
could legalize marijuana and allow for banking in that state.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm gonna
I'd
go.
move to Texas.
We're done. We're done.
I'd move to Texas.
I will tell you right now why. Why just put 2 and 2 together? It's gonna blow your fucking mind. But let me hit this first.
What? You got a joint?
Like you said. You know I don't smoke pot. I'm too fat.
Well, you said hit this. I didn't know.
So no, put stuff back on the screen, man. I'm not done sharing.
Okay.
So like you said, we're not supposed to be one country. We're like 50 different countries that come under like a union. We're a union,
a confederation
of
like
nations. The EU. We're like
the United Nations.
No, we're like the EU, but more. But anyway, like you could, like Texas or some state could say we're against gay marriage, and that state, it's fine. If your state passes it, you don't want gay marriage. Oh well. But if it's always been legal in like certain states, like Vermont and so on, Texas and other states, if they were against it, they had to accept it. They had to validate that marriage certificate. That's what it means. That's what I think the United States means. That you have to abide by other states. Like if we have concealed carry. If I have a license to carry a gun, I should be able to go to Florida. I should be able to go wherever with my gun concealed.
Right. That would be like uniform commercial code, like keeping uniform laws the same in all the states. So that I get it. But then that also supersedes the state's option to choose to govern itself.
But that's the gray area, dude. That's the gray area.
If a bunch of people decide that they want to move to a state and everybody in that state does not want guns, then we should respect the freedom of choice that they don't want to have guns. I get it, but I mean,
like a bunch of people start moving out of California and Chicago or Illinois and New York and go to Florida and Texas?
Well, yeah, we're going to end up having like gun-free states or
free market. That's a free market of living. That's the
sanctuary zones for guns now. It's crazy.
But
and I'm pro.
Dude, you're hitting my stuff. Shh, let me finish because you're hitting all my points. So anyway, that's all states, right? But this is a wake up call because people like you just said people don't realize that the federal government does not have that much power. They just do, and they're not allowed. So Texas said no. Okay, no one really talked about that. To me, that's huge. All right. And then also just think of the Juneteenth thing. That was Texas was one of the first states to do that, and we've always celebrated it here. And it's basically when Republicans ended slavery, but it's been made a national holiday by the Democrats, which is kind of funny. Okay. So this is some things that Greg Abbott did, which, you know what? Let me go to because I retweeted it. That'd be easier. Man, why is your StreamYard so slow? Okay. Hey, you should go here.
I don't think it's StreamYard. I think it's your computer.
Probably.
I'm trying to blame StreamYard. I'm trying to be quiet and let you talk.
Right. So, did I not tweet this motherfucking thing? I know I did. No, okay. I'm gonna hit the banking thing and the pot thing. Let me find out where it was at. No video.
Shout out to the dude whose name is Fat Vegan. You know how many vegetables you have to eat to really get overweight?
Dude, you can cook them in oil.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it that way, yeah.
Cheese on them. So this is
butter, cheese, and oil.
Yeah, it's healthy. So this is he signed I had the actual bill, but Abbott signed a new law in Texas to create a plan for expanding blockchain industry and cryptocurrency in Texas. Huge deal, right? You can go back to just us, and I'll just editorialize on everything he's done. So in the past couple weeks, all right, he signs first the blockchain thing, then the sovereignty under the 10th Amendment. Then he came out and said, "Screw you, federal government. You can go back to us, man."
I know.
Okay. You put your hands on.
I was taking advantage of the moment of nobody seeing me.
All right. So then he passed this bill about with cryptocurrency, and this is where it falls under cryptocurrency. it says that all Texas chartered banks can now do custody of any cryptocurrency. They can buy and sell cryptocurrency for their clients. They could
Yeah, but
offer,
that was already that was federally regulated, so all states have that opportunity technically.
well, so he put out this under the Texas Banking Act. Anyway,
Okay.
but by him doing that, what would stop him from him doing that for Texas chartered banks specifically? Why wouldn't marijuana growers and marijuana sellers be able to do that if their states would?
Because the banking system is federally regulated. So again, if the government's going to allow, if the government's already allowing banks to custody crypto, which is already allowed, that doesn't go against federal mandate. Federal mandate says marijuana is illegal, and all banking, every bit of it. The only way they would be able to do that is if they decided to open up their own state bank, and maybe their own private state credit unions, or just maybe Texas could just completely go into private. Technically, there's ways of doing it essentially, but I mean, when you're dealing with the fact that it's against federal government is the problem. So they would have to create their own banking system for Texas. Now, Texas is big enough that they could, because they have their own power grids. I mean, they could essentially have their own banking system. They don't need to rely upon the United States federal banking system that's regulated by the federal government. But then they could be shut out from the rest of the world, and then it could just be like Texas would have to be an economy in and of itself.
Well, that's one of the things that
and Texas can't produce enough goods to provide for Texas just alone to stay in-house in Texas.
Yeah, again, easy, dude. We have one of the.
I mean, we have
a larger economy than most countries. We're like we're in the top, I think 30 when it comes to GDP for countries. I sent you the picture of that the Banking Act that he signed. But after that, he came out and said, "We will secure our own border. We're going to build the wall ourselves. Screw you, federal government." So if the federal government says we don't want the wall, you can't build the wall. Texas is building the wall against what the federal government says. But I think this is where it gets really interesting and a little bit scary. That Florida, you know what they came out and did
with the masks, or what are we talking about?
No, Florida came out and said, "We absolutely support Texas and everything that they're doing. We stand against the federal government. We are going to send troops, police, so technically armed law enforcement to Texas to support them, and to Arizona or any other state that needs us." So you now have a unifying force of states in the South against the federal government.
Well, you're having there's a lot of crazy shit going on politically, man. I mean, I'm glad in a way you're bringing this up, and it makes sense. I probably got about 15, 20 minutes max that I can go. But I wanted to share something. I've enjoyed the conversation. I mean, we're very like-minded. So, I mean, I'm glad that you brought up some of these things. Because
this is blowing my mind, dude.
I didn't know Texas was doing all that.
And then there's still one more thing. So then a few days ago this week, he came out and said there is absolutely anyone can carry a gun.
Absolutely anywhere.
Under this, yes, this is under the Second Amendment.
So you can go into a bar now in Texas with a gun.
Anyone can carry a gun. You don't need a license. You don't need a concealed carry. But here's the thing he said. The federal government said, "We'll take your guns." Hell yeah. He's talking about Beto, but they said, "We'll take your guns." He said, "They will not. Texas will not let them." That is. Well,
like I said, there's in Virginia, there's gun-free sanctuary or gun sanctuaries that are like basically like protect that are like, you're not taking our you're not taking your guns, as the South Park guys would say. So there's this thing, man, of all the different things that I've been researching when it comes to the sovereignty stuff, and people talking about restoring the republic or going into the private. This thing right here.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
You got to put that comment up.
Which one?
Fat vegan. That's the saddest fucking thing I ever saw.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say sorry. You just have to learn from mistakes you make and educate people because you didn't go. I would say that Fat Vegan, I'm sure that you didn't go into any of this with negative or ill intentions.
No, man, but the fact that
You were
he was
tricked.
sorry is infuriating and very, very fucking sad.
Well, dude, it's just show. I mean, people are losing faith in governments. I mean, I think that's in a way, militaries are kind of preparing for the breakdown of nations and the formation of mega cities as the like where you have, and I've talked about this before, where you might have different areas, almost like some Hunger Games shit, where different areas you might have one area that's full of like people who are consider themselves anarchists and voluntarists and don't have a governance model that people are used to. Then you may have an area that chooses to be very communist, socialist. So and then people can move to the areas that they want to live in. I could see something like that happening a lot more than anything else. But now this thing right here, dude, this is the one thing. A lot of the stuff I research can get kind of weird. Some of it, not all of it, but some of it can get really off. I mean, some interesting crap, but this is like a legit thing where they're trying to bring together a convention of states. And it says here that it's basically a national effort to call a convention under Article 5 of the United States Constitution, restricted to proposing amendments that will impose fiscal restraints on the federal government, limit its power and jurisdiction, and impose term limits on its officials and members of Congress. Because the problem is, dude, after the Civil War, there was no restoration. There was supposed to be a restoration, but the federal government ultimately, after Abraham Lincoln's assassination, 100% took over everything. And that's where people talk about us being a corporation. The banks took over everything. That's why who really controls this country?
The world, not just the country, the world, man. They take over the world.
Right. So this is legit. So the guy that's running this, I'm trying to remember his name offhand. It'll come up here in a minute, I'm sure, but he is the interim CEO of Parler right now. I'm trying to get an interview with the guy, but he's the interim CEO of Parler.
He's a cool guy.
He just recently took it over in the past few months. And I wanted to show like their endorsement page because it brings a little bit more legitimacy in what they're doing. Not that I agree with everybody who's endorsing them, but people like Mark Levin, Governor Ron DeSantis, Mark Meadows, Sean Hannity, Governor Greg Abbott. Yeah, who's that dude? Who's Governor Greg Abbott?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
who is he?
That's our governor there. Yeah.
Right. So he supports this too. So and wouldn't you say that calling for a convention of states to limit the federal government, because it says here, citizens concerned for the future of their country under a federal government, it's increasingly bloated, corrupt, reckless, and invasive, have a constitutional option. We can call, let me pull the rest of this up. Anyways, people can go check this out at conventionofstates.com if they want to support something like this, because it takes 34 states to call a convention and 38 to ratify any amendments that are proposed. So this is like we the power shit. I mean, we the people kind of take the power back. Our convention would only allow the states to discuss amendments that limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government, impose fiscal restraints, and place term limits on federal officials. So it's only about limiting the federal government. It's not even allowing people to talk about anything else, period. It's just about...
It goes along with what I said, dude, how it's kind of a little bit of a scary time because you have southern states unifying and calling out. I mean, Texas said we will not allow. That's fighting words.
That's dope.
Will not allow the government to take away the Second Amendment from anyone.
Dude, it's hardcore. I'm glad you mentioned it because
it's putting down a line in the sand. And when you have, being a father, dude, having raised four kids myself, I'm proud of my kids. But that comment, dude, I worked with the military my whole life. And there's a big difference between the military and people in it and the government. I know that. But to hear someone who gave so much service to a cause for a reason to be ashamed of it, it's like being a father and raising like a serial killer. How the fuck do you feel that way? I mean, it's so terrible. The fact that we're at this point in history where that whole thing exists, and people need to sign up to form that to fight against their own fucking government.
Well, dude,
All of
no.
this happened before. All of this are the steps of nonviolence that people took before, but it all goes to one place, man. We all know where it goes.
Well, I mean, dude, that's why I've been kind of going down this. I love you, by the way, dude. This is why I go down the path that I've been going down, because this is our way of taking the power back. And that's, in a way, that's why I was able to restructure my channel and cover so much and it still be under the same umbrella, because this started out as a last week in crypto rewind. And because of some of the things that Texas did in relation to cryptocurrency, it got to go into the freedom aspect, which goes back to what I was saying earlier about coming from a cypherpunk mentality of getting away from the central banks, the government's fiat money, the control of that debt-based system, to get rid of those intermediaries, middleman, the third parties that just profit off of being a bridge. Period. It gives us that opportunity to take the power back. So to me, dude, this is one of the most empowering things I can hear, is an actual governor stepping up and other governors stepping up. Because I don't pay attention to the mainstream news, and I'm really glad you brought this up, because I had no clue about this. I had a clue about the Bitcoin thing, but I was like, ooh,
well, I wonder if looking
already
back,
federally illegal. Why would it matter?
Looking back at all these steps that are happening, and this is, like I told you, this is happening quick. The first step that was taken was about Bitcoin and about the money. That was the first thing he did. That was the first domino that fell. Is that coincidence? Is that happenstance? Is it brilliance? I don't know. But I think it's odd that the money was the first thing that was addressed and the first thing that was brought up, and everything else came after that.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm telling you, realize you're not alone in any of this, man. Another thing I would tell you, because I can, see that you care about this. There's two things you can look into, and one of which is peoplesrights.org, and that is Ammon Bundy. He's, are you familiar with the whole Bundy thing?
Yeah, the BLM. Every time I hear about BLM land, I think about that. Now, Dead Zone or Dead. God, I'm so old. My eyes don't work. Dead Day said EMP equals no BTC. Not true. It can go over radio waves, which has been done, and there's hardware out there. For sale.
I mean, you can use. There's lots of different things, but it's a matter of like if the EMPs take those things out. So
also, not to bring up Space Chain.
I think you could do a CD.
My favorite project. Space Chain just put the Ethereum blockchain on satellites.
Yeah, I'm kind of a little miffed about that. I was supposed to do an interview with Garza. Now they're giving me Wee Man or whatever his name is. I call him Wee, but I think his name is Wee.
Z,
the other founder.
Z, yeah,
Z Man. Yeah, so I'm maybe interviewing him next week. I wanted to do Garza.
Z-Man is from Jackass.
I know. I was so Z-Man. I was just being funny about it. But so this thing, peoplesrights.org, is uniting neighbors to defend their families, their faith, and their freedoms and their future. So it's a network that connects you up with local like-minded people so that you can have.
What's your neighbor's name?
Oh, I know all my neighbors' names because all my neighbors. Okay, so listen, I live in an apartment. In an apartment building with 6 apartments. And I'm the only guy. Well, no, I had a guy move in recently who's gay, but he identifies as a female. I'm not sure if that's gay, so I still consider myself to be the only guy that lives here. Mm. And my girlfriend's sister used to live below us. Her best friend is beside her. Somebody who I used to work with like 15, 20 years ago lives downstairs. There is a new lady that moved in that I don't know her name. So.
The
But
idea,
but
the
I know
idea
I
of
do
neighbors
know. But
nowadays,
now across the street
gone.
and two houses down and stuff. No, I have no clue.
There used to be
But
block
that's not the
parties,
people
dude.
I'm trying to connect with because, dude, like that's why I talk about the you saying things when you talk about I guess the idea that things could become violent on I don't see that as much necessarily because you don't have it so divided with like the Mason-Dixon line where one half of the country for the most part felt one way and the other part of the country felt another way. That was
But dude, everyone talks about how
but
divided.
now, dude, we're not. The states are not blue, and the states are not red. Everywhere is purple. It's just different shades of purple.
Yeah, different percentages of it. Yeah.
So I mean, that means I would be fighting with the people in my house. I'd be fighting with my neighbors. I don't see us having this battle royal.
First off, you're different. That was my point in starting this. The idea of neighbors is gone.
Oh yeah,
most people do not know who their neighbors are.
I've been, I've encouraged
fearful
farming.
My kids, I'm like, hey, I asked them something about the neighbor, and they're like, oh, I don't know them. They must hate us. I was like, you wouldn't go over there to borrow a cup of sugar, and they said that's psychotic, Dad. That you would think you could go borrow a cup of sugar from someone next door.
That's sad in a sense. Not saying that you've done anything negative as a father, but that's sad that that's how that generation of children would think. I'm not saying your kids. I'm saying
that's my point, dude. That it's become the idea.
It's a breakdown of morals, man.
It's the idea of neighborhood and neighbors is gone. So you fighting your neighbors to you is just unimaginable, but to most people nowadays, it's not.
I'll send you the links later, but peoplesrights.org and freedomcells.org, both bringing people together, like-minded people, ways that people can work together. And I think that people need to start doing community building for lots of different reasons.
Yeah.
What I mean, if you look at some of the things that they talk about on here,
also
talking about every group member having storable food, encrypted communication, a bug out plan, ensuring participants can defend themselves, all the while members can make themselves readily available to render mutual aid, to their tribe in whatever form that may come. And, it's like that you can have different networks that are working on different purposes, like different smaller networks. Like maybe one network is focused on food and having a way that the community can come together for food. And you might have another smaller cell group that's dealing with defense, but ultimately they make up a bigger cell. And the idea is to have larger cell groups. And the more that people are doing this, the more that we can actually opt out, because that's the other thing that we could do to take the power away from the governments and the banks is just to simply stop participating in their fucking games. Yeah. But in order to do that, you have to have enough people and an alternative solutions.
Said to leave cities, which a lot of people are. With the decentralization of work. There's
everything is starting to change. Everything. That you gotta take as shitty as 2020 was. There's still a lot of good that's coming out of that change. I mean, this decentralization of work, the whole idea of places not having to pay the amount of rent that they're paying, and the capital that people were putting out, and people having to travel. The time I remember just like living in the Washington D.C. metropolitan area, dude, and like. I had to, if I included my travel time and my work, I was working like 10, 11-hour days because traffic in the Washington, D.C. area was just insane.
Mm-hmm.
So,
also Project Sunlight, which Beatles is doing, is taking it to a lower level, not working on the federal, but really trying to empower people in their local governments.
Project Sunlight, right?
Yeah, Project Sunlight.
Is it? Do you know what the website is? Is it .org, .com? I would imagine.
I'm not sure.
Let's see what comes up with this. I have to do a video on it because I've been meaning to talk about that, and I think he's got his a video content platform too. That's like something
the red pill or
red pill
pilled. I think it's pilled.
pilled. Yeah, he's actually. I think as we talked about it too. He's one of the early
Yeah,
investors in Gab and stuff.
Pill.com. Maybe it's just pill.com.
Yeah, he just told me there's a bunch of things that will be happening on the back end of Monarch. They got some, and hopefully some big announcements.
Huge things are coming on Pill.
Huge. So
be huge.
And let me see if there's anything else, man. I do want because I do got to wrap things up. I know we were going to talk for a few minutes.
It's we do this all the time,
dude. It was great. I enjoy it. I mean, this is kind of what it's intended for. It's not like a structure. It was just to try to go over and highlight a few things in the news, and this was very relevant, man. If people are watching my channel, like if people, because I've been doing appearances on BitBoy Crypto, and every opportunity I have, I throw out what we talk about. Talking about why I'm in crypto and throwing out that anti-bank, anti-middleman, pro-freedom, pro-self-governing, pro-self-sovereignty. And I'm able to pull people like that to the channel, then what we just talked about is completely relevant. In fact, what I'll probably end up doing with it is tomorrow night, if I think about it, or over the next day or two, I'll take probably once we start talking about Texas, take that and just clip that and have a focus on that part of the conversation because of everything that we talked about, which I thought we had a lot of valuable things to say. I really felt that was stuff that my audience, people who watch my channel, would definitely resonate with and needs as a focus. And I say this too because not everybody who watches my channel watches my crypto content because they're just not into crypto, which I get. That's why I cover a lot of different things, and crypto is just one of those tools. I'm not a crypto maximalist.
Dead days, dude. I've been telling myself this for weeks now, dude. Just like a mantra, because love of country does not mean love of government.
No, and but it doesn't have to be about love of country. It could just be about love of your fucking fellow man and woman, your brother and your sister. That's all it really needs to be about. It doesn't have to be about patriotism. It's another form of just dividing us because it separates us from.
I don't think so, dude. I think that's been perversed by the other side. I think
there's nothing wrong with being proud of where you come from.
I think if what you stand for, if you're a proud patriot of the United States of America, of what our ideals were, and
what people think the history was.
Yeah, you can go with that. Of inclusivity, of a melting pot, of give us you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor, a building, a community, a new community where you have freedom to practice whatever religion you
want. Unity.
Do what you want, just to not encroach on other people's rights. That's it. You can do what you want. You can worship how you want. I mean, we were a country that was started by people who offended the government. It was basically, come here. You can do your offensive shit. Just don't try to force it on other people, which is that's it. That's like perfect. And people who say you shouldn't be offended, you should be offended. That's what the country is based on, is offensive people being offensive. But as long as they don't hurt you or try to force you to do anything that you just have to deal with.
As long as they cause no harm.
You have to deal with the fact they're offensive, but you have the freedom to be offensive yourself.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, freedom. That's why I tell people freedom of speech or free speech is a double-edged sword. People have to realize that, you may hear things that you don't agree with and that you don't like, that you may in fact find to be vile and disgusting and going against everything that you believe in, all your moral values, but they have the right to say it. As long as they're not causing harm, you had the right to choose to tune out. You can tell them they're wrong if you like, but
Yeah, but that's what I think is that's where we've lost.
debating, real true debating, not hateful. You're wrong. You know, if
But
you're
like,
going to tell somebody you're wrong,
but
tell
if someone
somebody
says,
why you think they're wrong.
if someone says I'm a racist, I think all black
I'm a
people
racist.
should be dead, should be killed, and you could say why, and they could say, well, this is why, and then you could say, well, I think those reasons don't make sense, and this is why they shouldn't be. And then when you give logic against hatred or propaganda or things that don't make sense, that's where minds get changed. Minds don't get changed from people yelling at each other. No, it just creates more division and builds up more walls. When there's actual debate and not fighting, you know.
No, I mean, I've seen some debates that may look uncivil, but depending on who's doing the debating, there's certain people that communicate certain ways that may like think that you're verbally fighting each other and punching each other in the face, but when you're done, they can hug each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it also, I think, depends on the individuals and parties involved, because I've seen two people literally, and it was just in Miami, that were like debating, and it was like, no, you're a cocksucker, and you're fucking completely stupid and wrong, and then the other dude's like, no, fuck you, you are ignorant, and
if you say you're stupid and wrong, this is why. That's different.
There was more, right? I'm simplifying it and paraphrasing it. That they were very much. That's exactly what I was saying. If you're going to say to somebody they're wrong, you don't need to be coming in on your high and mighty horse over here saying, hey, you're wrong and I'm right. You need to explain why you think, and that's why I had to emphasize why you think they are wrong, because it's technically, you want to really get philosophical, this comes all the way down to like psychology and perception. And if I'm crazy enough, I can perceive you as a freaking unicorn, Sean. I could perceive you as a poopy unicorn that looks like this. This is what I see when I see you.
Is that a poopy unicorn or unicorn poop?
It's a poopy unicorn. It's not a unicorn poop. What the hell? Unicorn poop is crazy. Why would poop have a horn?
A unicorn poop to defend itself. I don't know.
But yeah, I'm gonna in my care package to you, I will include a couple of these from.
That's cool.
From Bro's event.
Yes, I need to get with Bro. Matter of fact,
you have to set an appointment.
That's fucked up, dude. It really is. I know.
Well, I mean, dude, for the longest time, honestly, unless we were going to a conference, for me to really, really, really get him, I would have to like set up something on his Calendly. And I get it, you know. I mean, I'm getting more in that mode. That's why I was trying to tell you, like, and because I'm trying to balance my life, let's talk about this here in a second, and let's get ready to wrap this thing up. I want people to subscribe to your channel.
Yes, I do too.
Go ahead and tell people. Well, I mean, we're right here on each other's, like, we're right at each other's numbers. So I'm not sure how many of the same subscribers we already have, but definitely encourage people to go subscribe to my homie Sean's channel. You want to say something nice about your channel, and then we can wrap this up?
Subscribe to me. Scroll down.
Oh, hold on, man. You're making me work. Damn. How far down?
Oh, go to the homepage, man. Go to the home there. You're on the videos. Now scroll down.
Let me pause Grandmaster Melly Mel over here.
Are you not subscribed to my channel? See,
I'm not signed in. I'm using on my work computer. I'm not signed into shite.
Come up if you were signed in. Okay, Rice, you're right there. You're right after my kids' channel, so you're up there.
The Social Nerds.
Yeah.
Which we need to get their subscriber number up too. But I'm saying we're all at the same. Like Kiss at 9.1, I'm at 19.5, and you're at 18.9, which is basically 19. So we're all like hundreds away from each other. So it's you know. But you need to get me on your channel. I haven't been on your channel in forever. I've only been on there like once or twice, right?
Yeah, because you work more than I do. But yeah.
Well, I mean, you're a crypto specific channel, and I'm
I don't know, not really, man. Yeah, I
not
am.
really. I think every fucking
Yeah, I
video on
am.
here is all crypto,
Yeah, I am. But
and your name is Satoshi John.
it's a lot of opinion stuff. Your name's Rice TV. You're not a TV.
I am a TV.
You changed name of
No,
your
I
fucking
look, dude.
channel.
I
You are Rice
identify as a
Crypto.
TV now.
You are Rice
That's what
Crypto.
the X is for. Is the fact that I identify as a TV now.
No, that's nice for you.
And the Rice Crypto Show is a thing. But yeah, I was one. I just didn't. I'm not. Obviously, I don't talk about just cryptocurrency. I bring on people and talk about history and law, and that's not. You do not see that on like BitBoy or Ken Bozak's channels or Crypto Stash or Crypto's News or Crypto Zombie. It's all crypto, crypto, crypto. So I couldn't just be Rice Crypto. Now, I mean, if for some reason like my channel was to like explode and I have that much division between the videos, then I would split the brands and split the shows up. But it makes sense while I'm a small channel to have 3 separate shows under one channel. That's why I call it Rice TVX, because it has 3 different shows. So it's like TV programming.
I was thinking about starting a second channel.
Well, if I start a second channel, I want to start a network where we can like a bunch of different people can dump stuff and then do stuff together.
I was going to start a travel channel. So.
But we're going to keep rambling on. So Fat Vegan just subscribed to your channel.
I appreciate that, buddy.
Yeah.
And also, I'm looking at land outside in Colorado right now.
Cool.
Trying to get a place. He said that he's outside Colorado Springs.
Word up. Well, if people want to contact you, your contact information is on your YouTube. It's got links to like your Twitter and your Instagrams and all that good stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, I do appreciate you tuning in. Yeah, it's been a great stream. Sean, I really appreciate your time. I'm just going to go ahead real quick and throw this bad boy up. And then I want you to bear with me 1 second, Sean, if you don't mind. And ladies and gentlemen, make sure you subscribe to my channel, Sean's channel, my backup channel on YouTube, Rice TVX2. Follow us both on Odyssey, ODYSEE.com. Links are down below in the video description. And as always, I encourage you, you, and you, be the change by practicing change. Yeah.